Okay, so we are live.
What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to Let's Go Win podcast. You see me coming from a totally different studio today. I have my neighbor, a good friend of mine, and an overall just awesome dude, Mark Minard. He is the CEO of Dreamshine. He is a best-selling author of several books here, Elevating Beyond, The Story of You, and he's just this amazing human being. I'm so excited for this conversation. I love being live with you, man. This is I'm usually so often just doing it with a screen, but now I get the energy of having you next to me.
Remember, I was telling you, and what's up, everyone, by the way, and I just got the honor of having JM on our show, Elevating Beyond. So I was telling you, from over the years, I'm really more picky about doing in person.
Yep.
You can do it. You can utilize the technology. I get there's some people where you have to do that with the time, but when you're able to make it happen, I'm more picky about it because there's something about just sitting down and you're just like, you could just feel like you're having a conversation.
No,
you're not looking at a screen. It's just different, right?
You're right, because the conversation we just had, there was a theme, probably 2 or 3 that really came out of it, but we weaved in and out. I mean, we literally covered on the show.
I did box breathing live on air.
You did. We talked about
that was great.
Hitler. We talked about education reform. I mean, it spanned so many things, and yet the overall theme was getting better and just, it's just real life stuff.
It is.
I guess I'll start with, man, just what really the Dreamshine thing. I have to. That video you sent me, brother. I'm so happy. You guys, I'll make sure to link it. But the video on Dreamshine and what you did, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about that story because I think it's remarkable, and I want to hear more about it.
Yeah. It's crazy because a lot of people from like speaking in the show, and they're like, "Oh, wait, you own and run and operate a business of 15 years and have yeah, and that's like the foundation of everything that I do." But yeah, I was 26 when we started it, and to help like kind of try to share it without it taking the whole time for the episode, like I got into the field of working with people with disabilities, and out of college just got into it just by chance. And I was only making like $9 an hour, and I was thinking of going to grad school. But when I got into the field, I was like, oh, I love working with these people with disabilities, because I like before, like normal people always annoyed me. So I'm like, oh, cool. Like they're like, I'm crazy, so I can have fun. But then I continued to see, like where we were in Ohio, all the settings were like really institutionalized. They were depressing. And the way the funding and like the insurance works, that's basically like their only options after high school. And a lot of these individuals, we work with all different functioning levels. A lot need full care for the rest of their lives. And I love the field, but the more I got into it, I just kept seeing it's just like this giant factory, and it was depressing. And my niece was diagnosed with autism when she was like around 5, and I was also imagining her like graduating high school, and the place I worked at, it was like all the county or state owned, they called them workshops, and her going there, and it was like the individuals would sit there, and they like, in the video you hear me say, but it's like they would give machine parts and pay them like 3 cents a part. Like I watched their paychecks be like 37 cents for 2 weeks. And a lot of them didn't even comprehend every individual is different, just like all of us. Or it's like, here's piece of paper and crayons. And then the staff would sit there at a table with like 16 people, and they just read magazines all day and be like, don't talk, don't. And I'm like interacting with my group and like, and there's so many different functioning levels. And I'm just like, this is freaking horrible. So I got into working in the group homes. And then I also got into working in special education. And from being in special education, our students went to graduate, and I saw it from the school side, and we started, the way you like would tour colleges and stuff.
Yeah.
We're touring like the different workshops because that's the main. And I realized, oh my God, every different one we go to is the exact same as the one that everyone I'm talking about in the whole state. And the more I've seen in the country was huge factory looking place, fluorescent lights, no other options. And I'm like, what? Like this, like out of our 24 students, 2 of them need this exact routine, monotony. The other ones are going to be miserable. This is like borderline, it's abuse.
Wow.
So I'm like, but what do I do? So then I connected with a guy that I found by accident online who had like a farm with horses, had a program he ran on the other end of Ohio. And I told him like I wanted to do something. I went and met with him. And I have the binder in my office in Ohio. I show one when I do like my training with him. But he's like, be prepared to learn like every state rule and law, how it applies to this, because you're going to have to fight Goliath.
Wow.
Because he was the only like private company. And I don't want to get like too deep in how it's basically like if you're going to a doctor's office and you have insurance, you could go to any certified doctor in your network.
No.
So we would get certified and their insurance is predominantly in Ohio, the Medicaid, Medicare. So they could choose whether it's you or the state as long as you're certified. But the state and the counties own 99% of them, and they didn't want that to give that up or change anything. And it got dark. They got dark. Like I don't even hold back with what they tried to shut him down. They tried to take him to court. They did take him to court. He won. His program's amazing, but they froze his funds for 6 months. He owed $300,000 just in payroll. He had to mortgage his house. So he told me, he didn't say you can't, but he's like, I'm not scaring you out of it. I'm being real. Because I'm a success story. Like 10 years later, but be ready. So I spent a year working in the schools full time, got married. We had our kids back to back. I studied. I learned every state rule law. We went to open. My office was in a barn. It was 2007,
Wow.
like right before the recession hit. We had our daughters. My wife was working the overnights. And I got certified. We went to enroll our first individual. I started at my brother's campground. He had just like purchased and was fixing it up. And we were sharing a space. So had that more, I always wanted to have like a resort like feeling, which is what we have now. But when our first individual went to get enrolled, even before that, I was sending brochures out like in the physical mail.
Yeah. And
I got a phone call from a lady that worked next. I don't mention her name, but she worked by the governor. Again, this 26-year-old kid sending brochures out about a place called Dreamshine we want to open for people with disabilities. I'm like, hello? She's like, is this Mark Minard? Yeah, I'm so-and-so. I work directly next to the governor. We've seen these brochures. And this place called Dreamshine, we're telling you shouldn't open it. And I'm like, it was like the flip phone, that Motorola. And I'm like, at first I was like, like, how did you get it? So many things were in my head. Like, is this and I'm like, how did you get my number? And she's like, I'm just telling you, I'm trying to do you a favor because you're not going to make it. You can't do this. We've been doing it this way for 50 some odd years. You can't come in here as a private place. I'm telling you now, you need, and I said, thank you so much for calling. And I said, don't ever call me again. And when I hung up, I wasn't intimidated. I was fueled. And you know what's funny? It built my confidence in a weird way because I'm like, wait, I'm just a 26-year-old kid sending out brochures. I have nothing. If that is threatening them,
yeah,
then that just shows there's way more of a need. And the individual that I had, the first guy, his name's Brian Brooks. I even talk about him in my book. His mom was so excited he was going to come. It's a campground. We're doing like sports. He's active. He tried those workshops. They'd make him sit down all day. He has energy. And his mom visited him there. He would be digging into his skin and like wailing and screaming because he was. And so she had to quit her job so she could be home with him full time and do medical billing. And they told him he couldn't come to our program. They lied. Well, they said later on they had misinformation. She called me crying. And she's like Brian can't come. Like, she's like, I was so excited. And I'm like, oh no. And that's when I had my rules. I'm like, that's rule 512-3, free choice of provider. So I called the superintendent up. Again, I'm a 26 kid. I go in there. I told him, I'm like, I know you guys have been doing this for 50 some odd years. So I'm sure you know all the laws and rules, but let me just refresh your memory. I had a copy of the law. I gave it to him. I had it highlighted. I sat there. I read it. It basically was like, if you don't allow them to come to our program, because it's their choice, you're committing Medicare, Medicaid fraud. Your whole county will be reported. And then at one time, I reported the whole state of Ohio to the federal level. And it was at a point where the whole state of Ohio was going to be investigated from CMS, which is Central Medicaid, for all the funding because they were doing this at a higher level. And it was exhausting. It was crazy. But the next day, that guy Brian was enrolled.
Wow. I love the story because, again, if you see Dreamshine today, it's not these depressing. It's amazing, right? And I mean, literally, again, I can't wait to go visit it. But my favorite part about this is if you were to go to Dreamshine, you wouldn't see all that hard work. You wouldn't see the people calling you and trying to scare you, the government. You wouldn't see all the preparation. And my point in saying that is so often we get caught up in where people are today versus what it took to get there. The blood, the sweat, the tears, not to totally be, generic, but that's what it was.
No, I respect that saying.
Yeah.
Because I don't look at it as it's generic for a reason because it's true. And the blood, the sweat, the tears with any business. And it's the same with this. I had to learn to run it we became an LLC, then an S corporation. I didn't do nonprofit because I didn't want another freaking board of idiots in my way. I had this vision. Like now, 15 years later, we have our 2.5 acre campus. We serve over 55 individuals. We have a wait list. We have like a waterfront lodge, a log home. We're just finishing a pirate ship building.
Wow.
That's built over the water. And it's also, we're starting another podcast studio for our clients for Dreamshine. And my longer term vision was always to make it a place like Disney World that's interactive with the community, but it's a program. It's as far away from the institutions as you can get.
Yeah.
And I have been I had dreams of this pirate ship building for 15 years. And we started building it, by the way, during COVID, like the worst. And that was like when everyone was, I'm like, we're building a freaking pirate ship.
You just love taking on challenges. I love that. I think of Viktor Frankl when you're talking because the saying, if your why is strong enough, the how doesn't matter. There's no amount of you can't, here's why you won't make it. When your why is strong enough, these people that you're working with that are not being treated properly at all, that why is pretty strong, man. And your bucket, I assume, gets filled every day with the work that you guys are doing. And I want everybody to hear that. It's like, man, when your why is strong enough, the how doesn't matter. There's so much that goes into your mindset back there. I just want to take you back there for a second. You obviously prepared. Your why was strong enough. But when you were faced with the worst of the worst, as you're having your babies, you and your wife that's not an easy time in itself. But take me through your mindset back then, brother, because that is strength. And I think anybody listening can say, I want some of what Mark had.
No, it's a great question. And to back up, like I was in trouble in my younger years. I almost died. I was in jail after a lot of nonsense for a short. I had anxiety. I battled. I was never. I thought leaderships were born, not built. I didn't know it was a skill.
Yep.
Which that's a whole other part of my why of then learning. Whoa, leadership. You can lead team members. You can build people to be better people in all areas of life, including myself. You know, it starts with me, but going back. And there's been a lot of screw ups on the way. And when I say blood, sweat, and tears, when you said it, I had nights, like I don't sugarcoat. I had nights where I came home like literally in tears.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like it almost, every time I speak, I still almost, I was like, at that time we had a few team members, you know, from 10,000 we had to have for payroll. It's grown so much. It keeps, I don't know how we're going to get it. Everything's like, I don't know. What am I going to do? What are we going to do? They're threatening this. It's 2007. The 2008 Great Recession hits, just like now at anyone that has a dream, right when we're starting it.
Yeah.
I some things that I did. First of all, I tuned out the news. And I tuned out. I told some people I love you, but when it comes to this, I can't talk to you about Dreamshine because they're telling me, aren't you worried about this? Yeah, I'm already, trust me, I'm way harder and overthinking it more than you already will ever even know.
Right.
So I don't need to hear more of, then they'd put, oh, aren't you, out of love, like even my parents, like you and I were talking.
Yep.
What if this happens and also like, I was going to go back, I just got accepted into this. I was going to go back to school for child psychology. Then I decided, no, I'm going to be an anesthesiologist. So I was on a wait list. I got into this highly accelerated BSN program where you got your Bachelor of Science in Nursing, like very accelerated within like less than a year. It's really intense.
Wow.
But there was a wait list. I had to apply. I had to go and take other night courses. This, I swear, the same day we got our certification for Dreamshine, I got the letter in the mail that I had been accepted into that program.
Yeah.
So I was like looking at them both. I just got married. Like we had our kids back. Our daughters are a year apart. Both their birthdays are in January. So there was no sleep. My wife, like I was saying, was working the nights, and I get into this. And right away out of the gate, I would have been making a great salary. They were already going to pay for my school. And I had like 2 days because of the wait list, just so long, I had to give them an answer. And I remember telling them, like, thank you. I'm respectfully turning it down. And one thing I don't ever remember looking back because I became so obsessed with Dreamshine that I now when I look at it, I'm glad I didn't know everything that it took. That's the part of not knowing. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
You learn a lot. I'm like, if I would have known, I would have been, but I was just so laser like locked in. And so I don't sugarcoat it and act like, oh, then once I had my why, I had nights. I still, there's times I would even like at my office was in a barn. There's times I'd be like in tears and I would like get myself together. And one thing I say is like, I go to bed, you just wake back up, like you pick that sword back up and you go back into battle. And then what would keep me going is like that guy, Brian, got enrolled. And we had another individual who was a lacrosse player, captain of the lacrosse team, junior year of high school, playing around at a football game, skateboarding behind a car, has a full ride scholarship, falls, hits his head. Immediately, his whole life changes. He's totally cognitively disabled, but still functioning.
Yeah.
And his mom lost. His friends were touring colleges. She lost all hope, and they brought her out to visit Dreamshine. And like, that's what kept me going, because she just like fully, I can't tell this stuff without tear now, man. She just like fully broke in tears. And she's like, this is the first time like I've had hope like for my son again. She's like, I can see him here. Like, you guys, you're playing sports, you have fishing, you're doing stuff, you're engaging, you're doing like stuff in the community. There's so many options here. She's like, this is beautiful. And so when it came to like the hard times, it's like I would tap into those moments, you know, and like I would be like, I do not get to give up. Like I literally, I say don't give up all the time. This was like, there's times where I would like throw in the towel, like I said, temporarily, like I'm done. But those stuff would hit me, and it's like, I believe in God, whatever you believe in. I would hear this voice in my head like that. You don't get to give up. Pick that towel back up.
Yeah, man. And my wife and I were this morning before I came over here. She's like, she reads energy, and you and her have not met, but she's watched your videos, and the book was sitting on the counter, and she goes, Mark is a special person. And it's just interesting that she...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. But she's got this read. And my question to you is, there's choices that you're making that are not easy. And I guess what I'm asking is, are you genuinely just an intuitive person where you just trust your gut? Because the easy road was to go ahead and follow the guaranteed salary. The easy road was to go ahead and just not build Dreamshine. The easy road was not to take on the state of Ohio.
Right.
But you did. And so my question is that, again, a calling? Was that God for you? Or is it your gut? I'm just curious, because when people get into these crossroads,
right,
and I do believe the universe or God or whatever you want to talk about.
Sure.
Right? Like the same day, you have literally, you go like one road or the other.
The same day.
That's the way the world works, though. And I hope, I want everybody to hear this, because you're probably at a crossroads yourself, audience listening.
Yes.
How did you make that choice? Because obviously it's worked out tremendously, and you have, I mean, you tearing up talking about this kid, it's amazing, because I can only imagine all the special things he's accomplished since. But my question is, brother, is it intuition? Is it your gut? How did you make that choice?
That, first of all, that's a really good question. And I got to give respect for that, from being on shows, having shows, and being on over 1,000 interviews. I always like it when people ask good questions that make me think, that I'm not giving a generic answer, because I'm really thinking. And it's not, and I like people to know this too, it's not a clear-cut, magical, like God came from the sky and is like, this is what you should do, my good man. Like, it wasn't that.
God, life would be easy.
Right?
Hey, God, life would be easy if you would do that.
You know, it's crazy. The circumstances were so externally saying not to, like, I got into the thing. The recession was collapsing.
Right.
Like, everything around me was saying, you shouldn't do this. But everything what I tell people too, and we were talking about Eric Thomas, when I met with him, is something that he shared and gave me a great answer for this, is like, no matter what is going on, if you feel like this kind of pulling at your gut that doesn't go away, that's the thing that you should be doing. And then what I add to that, in my own words, is it's usually always the scarier thing. Always. The easier thing, the more logical thing would have been, okay, BSN, 2007, 2008, I'll be done. Right out of the gate, $65,000, $70,000 salary, full benefits, paying for school, anesthesiologist, $200,000, you know, like, I saw that path. It wouldn't have been easy. It would have been work. But logical, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it takes a hell of a lot more faith to be like, everything around is like, don't. But in my gut, there's this pulling, and that's why. And I don't preach down, like, believe whatever you want, like, of course. But when people are able to ask that now, I'm like, I cannot say if it wasn't for God, there's no, like, it proves my faith, because it was like that gut pulling me, like nothing makes sense. Keep going.
Yeah, I like that logical part, because the things that are hard and challenging, that's really the stuff that's worth living for, right?
Purpose.
Yeah. And it's like, so often when I talk to people, when they take that easy road, that's boring, man. That is literally, they end up being bored because it's not truly their passion.
Yeah.
It was just the path of least resistance. And what I love about what you've done, brother, is you said, to hell with that. I am going forward with my purpose, with my passion. And because, again, whether it was God or faith or whatever it was, I'm going to move forward with that. It's just such a fascinating subject, because on a daily basis, how many choices are we faced with?
Right.
And we always say, oh, we want the easy one. We say that, but the truth is, as human beings, I think we want the challenge.
When you keep feeling this thing in your gut that doesn't go away. I've learned, you're talking about, like, is it your gut? I've learned I have to keep following it, because I continue to build Dream Shine. There's a need for it in every state. I didn't need to have I didn't need a show. I dropped speech class 3 times. Then this other thing came in. Time for you to write a book and share your story about being in jail, and open up about that and have it. And I'm like, again, you got the wrong guy. I don't want to be a public. I don't want. That's not me. But I kept doing it. Like, I wrote the book. I know, again, running the company full time. Leadership, you and I were talking about a lot.
Yeah.
The same. Then I learned, whoa, man, there's this beautiful thing of creating this thing and doing leadership the right way, from screwing up and doing it the wrong way, and how you can build a team and a culture. And that helps people not, like, there's been so many cool things that I've gone and I've worked with other companies, not way out of my industry. It could be NFL teams. It could be Keller Williams. You're speaking about, it all intercorrelates, but it's so cool. People will share these other things, like, man, what you helped me with that mindset, and like not making decisions on fear. They'll share a win, like you talk about, and it doesn't have to just be related to Dream Shine. They might be like, that helped me be like a better wife to my husband, because I realized I was getting triggered all the time by this. What you taught me here, I applied that. Our marriage is better now. And I'm like, all right, God, that's why. That's my why. That's with a book, everything. What if you share about being in jail? Like, you've opened this reputable company, Dream Shine.
Right. People
in the community respect you. People in the state respect you and will look for anything to shut you down and threaten you. What are they going to think? You know, what are they going to be? And it's like, nope, and it was the opposite. People were like, thank you for sharing that, Mark. My son's going through this. He's going in rehab right now. He has a DUI. I had no idea that happened to you. Like, thank you. And I'm like, okay, that's why.
Well, brother, I mean, we're talking authenticity now, because I don't know when it happened. I don't know where along the world people said we have to present this perfect image, because it's all bullshit, by the way.
Bullshit.
It's
bullshit.
100%.
Yeah.
Go to any family in this country or in the world for that matter. There are skeletons in the closet. There are problems. So why pretend like it's not? How freeing is it, brother? Yeah, see, I do too, right?
Here's what I hate. I love everything you're saying. Here's what I hate is it makes us think, what's wrong with me?
Right.
it may all of us. I still have it. I'll watch someone on something and I'm like, why am I still having these fights in my marriage? I speak on leadership. Why did I go home? What's wrong with me? Like, yes, there's stuff to get better, but nothing.
Yeah,
like,
you're human.
It's called being a freaking human. Can we just be more real and stop like sharing all this stuff on social media? Am I constantly taking pictures here of our house and the gated neighborhood, and that's great, but what did you like do to get there?
Right.
Like, how can you help me? Okay, I'm showing pictures of my marriage. We're on these Okay, great. Can you just be real and open up? Like a month ago, we were going through this really big struggle. We didn't know what was going to happen with our kid. My wife and I were fighting every day. We were cussing each other out, and that's real. And then you can share, look, here's how we're getting through it.
Yeah.
Like that's what the world, that's why people like are listening to your show and you're getting this out because it helps people. This fake crap is just bringing everyone down because it's setting these false reality.
Yeah. You know, it sucks, man, because it's not sexy is the challenge, right? Like, for instance, I asked you about your kids earlier today, and you have adopted someone into your life years ago.
Right.
And that's amazing. And there's other families that have done this for kids in positions that maybe aren't ideal. But that people don't talk about that. You know why? Because it's not sexy.
It's been hard. It was hard.
We
were separate. This was probably maybe 10 years ago now. And I've opened up about it in the book. We went through a time where we were separated in our marriage, and we weren't. And I got to where I didn't think we were going to make it. We were at that time. Our nephew came, and he's like, "We're going to." It was the timing. The timing could not have been worse. Like, wait, what? How are we gonna? We can't even handle our marriage. I thought we were going to be in. Again, like it just the thing in the gut. It didn't go away. It takes. It also takes, by the way, you don't know if things I've done haven't worked.
Right.
Like people see the book. I've done stuff that didn't get traction or didn't make it. And I've had plenty of failures too. But you just keep going. And eventually we worked more on our marriage and we got back together. I didn't know if we were going to get back together at that time.
Yeah.
But what helped us in our marriage was getting around other couples that shared their stories of what they went through, that authenticity, and how they overcame it. Now they've been married 30 years. And I'm like, I thought we were the only ones. Like, it's just letting people, like you said, it's not so sexy, but it's what helps people. And we're making it like sexy by sharing the truth because people want help and they need to know they're not like alone in their situations.
Well, and there's no shame, right? No, you're good, man. There's no shame in this. Here's the deal. My wife and I were separated for a year. I didn't think we were going to make it. And it's funny because I say this on other shows where I married this person. I am deeply in love. And then life starts to happen. And at some point, I looked at her and I loathed her.
Right.
Which is shocking to say today because of how I feel. I'm way back in like...
I get it.
Yeah.
You're being on. Look, I like people. You need to know when this happens to you, it's part of human nature and you can get through it because all this false stuff makes people think something must be wrong with just me. I should probably get a divorce. This wasn't meant to be. And that's the other end of why it's not good to, it takes more courage to share that. Like we would look at each other and I've gone through seasons where it's like, we're despising every word that the other person's saying. Like I don't like dreading coming home.
Right. I definitely worked hours I didn't need to.
Right. But now look at like, what if you guys would have, again, going back, could have been easier in the short term. This is done. I'm cutting this. Everything I've learned, it's a skill. It takes work. But when you work through it, it doesn't mean we don't still have fights and go through stuff. but you get more unified, and you're able, like, imagine if you would have given up and each gone your separate ways. Like, look how much stronger your marriage is now, you know?
No, it's amazing. We literally feel blessed that we went through it. Right. Now, if you put yourself back in those times, yeah, it sucked, man. Like it was horrible. That was the hardest year probably of my life. This one maybe being second. Like this has been a really challenging year with the loss of my dad and you know, the business partner thing I'm dealing with and the shoulder. But that year was awful. And you know what? Greatness came from it. And that's the thing. It's like I say embrace a suck, but even when I'm in it, it's hard to be like, yeah, this sucks. This is awesome. I want to shift gears for a second.
Hard when you're in it to know that.
Dude, it's so hard.
And we could shift gears for sure. I just think this is good. Everyone's been, we've all been going through a lot, like since mentally.
Yeah.
This whole COVID, I don't care what, it's been weird. It's been hard. Everyone's had anxiety. There's been anger, outlet, people just learning how to cope, still figuring out what the hell is going on. The CPI data came in this morning. I said with stocks, inflation's up again. It's scary.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot. But in the moment, it's not like, I'm so happy this is happening. I'm about to level up. But you know what I mean?
I do.
We can say that on stage, but I'm glad you said that because we all are about to level up because in this moment, we don't know this right now, but we're getting stronger.
Yep.
And we're going to be able to look back and be like, I got through that. So I could look back. I got through that recession in 2008. I can get through this. This is going to be, I got through when we shut down with COVID. My dad passed away. We moved. I had this whole thing going on in my company. Like, and everything, it comes. It's like when you think you can't handle nothing, it's like, boom, there's that. It's like, are you freaking kidding me?
It is amazing. And I guess it is all these sayings, there's a reason for it, right? Like tough times create strong men, and I'll say women. It's not just men, but strong human beings, where easy times create weakness, right? And it is fascinating. So every time, I guess the lesson here is when you're getting your ass kicked, say thank you. Like,
yeah, yeah, it's going to take, that's another skill to be able to work on and be like, okay, cool. Yep. This is going to make me stronger. Cause it does.
It's amazing.
But I don't do it in the moment either. I'm like you, and you talk on being intentionally grateful.
Yep.
And that stuff helps too, like to snap us out of it. But when you're going through that, it's real.
And I guess that's the biggest thing to accept the fact that, hey, it sucks. Don't shy away from it. Be in it. And when you hear that, to truly be in it, to be present, because just knowing there's something great on the other side. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But there's something amazing. What I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned the podcast studio back at Dreamshine. Why podcasting, brother? Because I have my own answer, and I freaking love it. But why? What was the purpose behind that? And you know what's driving you to continue to do it, brother?
There was sorry, I don't know if the dog will come through the microphone. Our little dog's going crazy out there. But there is, I think he's watching the car. I should have just start bringing the dog and like holding him in my lap during the episodes. But I think so. Elevating Beyond like started at Dreamshine because that's where I was all the time, and that was about like sharing the story behind the story of overcoming adversity, like to achieve success.
Yep.
And all air. First episode sitting in my car, not a studio like this. I always like people to know that. Do what you can with what you have. I had like my headphone is like a mic, audio sounded like crap, but people started responding because of that authenticity.
Yes.
They weren't like, dude, the audio sounded terrible. I could hear it raining on your car. They're like, dude, that message you shared about, I didn't know you, like that's help. So I'm like, okay. So it led to where we are now with this, but with Dreamshine, I kept seeing, and it's still an ongoing like work in progress, but a studio, a show where I involve our team members and our individuals with developmental disabilities that can be part of the show and also part of behind the scenes, even help like create job options. Some individuals we have, instead of going just the machine parts, and that can like hit the button to start the intro for the show, or we have some that are like nonverbal and they have different like needs where they need like sensory rooms, and they could come in and have a thing where they do this, and it lets them all, it just makes more cool options, and it allows the audience to get connected at a whole other level, like in personal ways where they can get to know him and joke around with them like we do with each other as like human beings.
Yeah.
And it is going to intertwine the whole humanity. And it's in a pirate ship, which makes it more cool. But like the bigger vision of that, the own Dream Shine show, is to totally have its own ad revenues and to create full other jobs for our individuals that can have a whole other list of options and make it a kickbutt show that's entertaining and making these individuals like household names. Like, how cool would that be? Like that dude Brian I told you about.
Yeah.
Imagine that lacrosse player, like his mom like seeing him like, what? I just watched my son on that show. I start to lose it like every time, but that's why.
Well, when we first met, I had an amazing guest, John and Mark Cronin, and from John's Crazy Socks. And my point in bringing them up is you see these people that so often are not cast away, but maybe it is. I don't know, where society looks at them differently.
Right.
Because they have differing abilities.
Right.
And what I've really, and I can't say I've always been this way, but what I've really learned is, look at that. I talk about the 5-year-old coming out. That's what I love about people with, they have joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfettered, like no shame joy.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit what anybody thinks about how they're looking, how they're acting. They are just in the moment, happy, and they see the world with wonder. And I just think so often we need that in our world, man.
Yeah.
And so when you tear up, it makes sense to me. It's like, of course, you get to watch people that are not saying, okay, world, I care what you think about. No, these are people in true authenticity. Yeah. This is their world, man. And I think there's so much to learn from that.
It helps me because I'm working so hard behind the scenes all the time on every level of the business, like constantly, which has to be done we have like a WhatsApp where our whole team's on it. They post stuff ongoing. So I'll see that like, oh, awesome. They're fishing today. And then I go there like ongoing in person, and it always helps like remind me ongoing of that why. And like, yeah, some of our individuals, I'll be complaining about stuff in life. And then we've got a kid that was born, never could walk and never could see, can talk somewhat, and is always smiling. Is always this other girl like Erin. She's always smiling. She's always laughing. I'm like, she's happier than me and life's way harder. We have to help her eat. We have to blend the food up. And I'm like, and I'm complaining this morning about the freaking CPI being high because of my precious stocks.
Perspective,
man. Or I don't want to jog today or work out. And this individual's been in we do therapeutic horseback riding, and they have a special adaptive horse. And it's so cool to see him on a horse the first time because it gives him the sensation of a feeling of legs. Why the horse, and he's never had that in his life. And I'm like, whoa, and I'm seeing him just so happy. And I'm like, dude, and I'm in it all the time and I still forget. And I'm like, it just really puts that perspective.
And we all need it. I mean, I literally have in my bathroom mirror, keep perspective, Dick Fong, and now I have my dad. It's like, look, the truth is we need these reminders because to your point, okay, the market's down a little bit. I'm sorry, you may lose a zero in your bank account. You are still enjoying things that so many people can't do.
Yes.
The interesting one that you said is like, how often do I hear people bitching about going to the gym?
Which we all do it.
We all do it.
Right.
I'm not casting stones. I've done it myself.
It's true.
We should be grateful every time we can move our legs. And it's just...
I say that when I want to stop. I don't know if you ever heard David Goggins.
Yeah.
But I'll think of that, and I'm like, oh, you want to give up? Well, you got legs. Like, people are in the hospital, like, begging for the problems that we're complaining about.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, keep going. This sucks. Yeah, it sucks. But no, I get to be here. I get to run. I get to work out.
Yeah, the lottery ticket that we have both been given is, again, I know your wife is not originally from the States, and my in-laws are from Thailand and Hong Kong. The perspective I get from them is remarkable. If you just think of, look, is our country perfect? No.
You think our government sucks? My dad used to say, America's the worst country except for every other one. And it's not that, and please don't start writing me from this. Listen, my wife's, I get it. But being real, a lot of other countries where I've worked, you can't do business. Some of them you can't have a podcast like this because they'll block the airwaves, like in North Korea. They can't even have free internet. And in a lot of them, you have to bribe the government to open. It's who you know. And it's like, there's so much that actually, one thing we're talking about, the struggles we go through with COVID and all that, it made me realize how much I was taking freedom for granted. So on the flip side of that, people were like, okay, but now everything's going to crap, and I'm like, I don't think so, actually. Now it made a lot of us realize, wait a second, we're going to look back and fight a lot harder for this precious thing that we've taken for granted. I know I did. Freedom. That so many people don't have, that I just took. I didn't even know it was like a thing till, wait, what? The governor can tell me what day I can go to the store. Wait, now the county can freaking dictate like what day my business can, and I'm like, what is going on?
It is weird and it's unfortunate, but the last time our country was really unified was after 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Everybody put their stuff away. They weren't worried about agendas. It was finally we were fighting for our country again. Like, we have these really evil
our values.
Yeah. And we're missing that. And this is not to get into the whole government, because that's certainly another show.
But I get it, though. Listen, 95% of the conversations I have are like the ones you and I have.
Yeah.
Most people have hope and want good of all races. Not even 99%. 1% is all the crap you see on the news, on social media, that it makes up 100% of the content. So people falsely believe that's the reality. And they think everyone's against everyone. But I'm like, I'm not seeing that when I'm talking to my wife's family who's from Sierra Leone and Philly. And we're having normal conversations about real life problems, but we're able to talk through it and joke and get to know it. It's not like that everywhere I go, the way social media is painting all these pictures of everyone's crazy and hates each other and the whole world's gone to hell. I'm like, no, there's a lot of ways that things are going in the right direction.
Right.
And, everyone hates America. Everyone's like, look, the way to fix something is, that's why I talk about, like, Martin Luther King came about it. He went back to the core values of America has done a lot of screwed up things, but he's like, but I love the core values I love how America says all men, like, are created equal.
Right.
And have the right, like, the right of pursuit of, what is it, like, of their dreams. He's like, I love that about America in the Constitution, but you're not living up to your core values, and that needs to change. Instead of being like, I hate America, because hate just breeds more hate, even though all these horrible things were happening. And that's the way I look at it now, is like, again, it made me appreciate our core values. And he was like, but I need to hold you accountable, us accountable, to have the actions follow what the core values are saying.
Well, and what's amazing, obviously, what he did it in a nonviolent way. It
Right.
doesn't have to be a fight. It just doesn't have to be, right? He was passionate. It was in a non-violent way. And look at what he changed the world. Brother, we're running up on time. I can't believe how fast this went. I want to give you just an opportunity, any open forum. I didn't know enough to ask you something. I know that's for sure.
Oh, that was great conversation. That's all I care about.
But anything you want to share with the audience as we kind of close up, and just anything on your mind.
Not even about me. I just continue to feel that everyone thinks that they're like alone right now. Like a lot of us are trapped in our heads, including myself. And this thing has been hard. All this COVID, all this that's been going on, that doesn't like make you weak. First of all, it makes you a human, and we've all been going through this, and it's not done, but we're gonna get through it, and we're all gonna be okay. But I just want everyone to know that you're not alone in this, and we're all going through our different doubts, our struggles. It comes out internally. It can create conflict in the home. But we're all gonna get through this, and I think people really need to know, because no one's telling them this right now, that you're not alone. Like the whole world's been going through this, and we've all been through way harder. Something about us as humans is we're resilient. We are resilient, and we got this. And most importantly, you're not alone. And most importantly, like the best is always yet to come. So just don't give up. Don't give up, and know that you are not alone.
I love that, brother. When people want to, because if they don't want to connect with you, brother, they're off base. But to find out about your book, Dream Shine, Elevate Beyond, the podcast, everything that you're doing, where's the best place for them to connect with you online?
Yeah. I'll be honored, and it's all through my name. So you just go all social media. It's Mark, M-A-R-K, Minard, M-I-N-A-R-D. Or markminard.net is my webpage, and it has everything there, and we'll connect with you. And I love to engage, and hopefully, you find stuff that will help you and other people. That's what it's all for.
I love it, brother. I got to thank you for hosting me, allowing me to host the host. Such a cool setup you have, brother. This is just amazing. I can't wait to continue these conversations. So I appreciate you, and thank you for being on the show. It's amazing.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
So guys, remember, share it, subscribe, get this out there. We want people to know about amazing human beings like Mark Minard and everything that they're doing. And remember, until next time, your mindset matters. I appreciate you guys.
I love it.